My son is on summer break now. In China, students have a winter break and a summer break. And summer is probably the time children look forward to the most. So we went back to my mother-in-law's small town. For my son, it was just a place to play and relax. But for me, every time I come back here, I feel another kind of life that is very different from the city. Hi, I'm Lan. I'm a Chinese mom sharing quiet and real everyday life in China. This town sits by the Liangyuan in Hunan. Some of the old streets are still there, while new shops and small businesses have slowly grown around them. Life here is convenient, but not overly modern. It still feels local, familiar, and close to everyday life. In this kind of small town, Fuki is not easy to keep inside. Doors are often open, and he always wants to sneak out. And this time, he really did. My husband found him on the steps of a house across the road and carried our little runaway back home. In the afternoon, we planned to visit my husband's cousin, who lives at the other end of the old street. In many Chinese small towns, relatives who live close to each other often drop by almost every day. They chat, drink tea, play cards, or just sit together for a while. As we were walking through an intersection on the old street, we happened to see him driving out. He told us to go upstairs and sit for a while, and said he would be back soon. We chatted and laughed along the way, and soon arrived at his home. His wife's parents live on the first floor, while he and his own parents live upstairs. The house was built together by both families. In a small town, family life is often connected in this way. We went up to the second floor. During the day, the door is usually left open, and his friends often come and go freely, especially in his study. From the paintings on the walls, as we walked upstairs, it was easy to tell that my husband's cousin really likes painting. But painting is only one part of him. Later I found out that he has so many practical skills. While waiting for him, my husband picked up one of his calligraphy brushes and started writing to pass the time. There are usually brushes and ink on his desk, because whenever my husband's cousin has a little free time, he practices calligraphy or painting. There were many paintings in his study, but my favorite was this one, called Cold Sparrows. It shows pine trees, bamboo, and a group of little birds, some visible and some half hidden among the branches. Then I heard some sounds from the kitchen. My husband's cousin had come back and was already preparing tea for us. This time, it was not green tea, but a kind of wellness tea with black goji berry, astragalus root, and licorice root. It was my first time drinking this kind of tea. Chinese hospitality often starts in such a simple way, with a cup of tea. After that, my husband and his cousin went up to the third floor, thought his cousin was about to cut some fresh honeycomb, and he called me upstairs to film it. This was something I don't often get to see in the city. While putting on a simple protective jacket and hood, he kept telling me not to be nervous. He said I should not get too close to the beehive, and as long as I stayed a few meters away, I would not get stung. Then he walked quickly to the small balcony and lifted the cloth covers over the beehives one by one. He checked each honeycomb frame carefully to see which one was ready to cut. After checking the beehives, he found that this year's honey harvest was very good. Some of the honeycomb frames were already heavy with honey. He lifted one frame, shook off the bees with a few strong movements, and then carried it into the room. At that moment, my husband showed his cousin the finger that had been stung by a bee. His cousin told us that when a bee lands on you, you should blow it away instead of slapping it with your hand. Otherwise, the stinger may get pushed deeper into the skin. I followed my husband and his cousin into the inner room. His cousin was already scraping honey from the honeycomb with a spoon. With practiced movements, thick golden honey slowly flowed down, and the air was filled with the sweet smell of fresh honey and beeswax. My husband scooped a small piece of freshly cut honeycomb for me to try. He reminded me to enjoy the honey, but spit out the beeswax afterward. It was my first time eating honey straight from the comb. The sweetness almost melted it in my mouth. But what impressed me more was how fresh and interesting the whole experience felt. While his cousin continued harvesting honey from the next beehive, I looked around the little balcony. It was full of green plants, and among them, I noticed some white pepper drying in the sun. In many Chinese towns, fresh green peppers are first boiled briefly, then sun-dried until they turn pale. Later, they are often stir-fried with meat to make a simple but flavorful local dish. Maybe I was careless, or maybe I was just too nervous. When his cousin lifted another honeycomb frame, I was standing too close and did not dare to move away. A few bees started circling around me, and one of them stung me near the eye. My husband tried to remove the stinger with his fingers, but he could not get it out. Since there were still bees near the doorway, he told me to walk slowly into the room so we could deal with it there. When his cousin saw that I had been stung near the eye, he said it would probably stay swollen for a few days. His wife had once been stung in the same area, and half of her face has swollen up. What does a bee sting feel like? It felt like a sudden needle prick, followed by a sharp, burning pain. It was something I won't forget anytime soon. Watching his cousin continue harvesting honey without stopping, I couldn't help but admire him. There were already a few bee stings on his arms, but they seemed like nothing to him. I quietly closed the door and went downstairs for a cup of tea and a short break. When I finally sat down, Fuki couldn't wait to jump onto my lap. My husband poured the cooled astragalus and licorice tea that his cousin had prepared into my cup with the black goji berries. Now the tea was finally ready to enjoy. The afternoon passed slowly. Downstairs, my husband's cousin's mother waved at me while playing cards. The whole room felt relaxed, as if time moved a little more slowly for the older generation. Perhaps, at this stage of life, they had already laid down many of the burdens they once carried. By then, the three little dogs had finally met and started getting to know each other. As for the two boys, after spending a little time on the computer, the little turtle quickly became the most interesting thing to play with. After finishing the honey harvest, his cousin came back downstairs and gave us a bottle of the fresh honey he had just collected. I was so happy. Then he took out his hair cutting tools and got ready to trim my husband's beard and hair. His cousin is not a barber, but he taught himself how to cut hair and even do perms. In fact, that seems to be his way of doing things. Whenever he becomes interested in a new skill, he keeps learning and practicing until he can do it really well. Then it was my son's turn. Laughing, his cousin said that he had cut the hair of many relatives in the town over the years. It had almost become part of family life. In a small town, people don't just live close to one another. They also take care of one another in simple, everyday ways. For my husband's cousin, this was probably just another ordinary afternoon. But for me, it was a chance to experience a different way of living. In the city, we are used to paying for almost every service. Life becomes convenient, but many everyday skills gradually disappear from our own hands. Watching him harvest honey, make tea, paint, and even cut hair, I realized that these were not just practical skills. They were a way of staying connected to everyday life. Perhaps where we live matters less than how we live. Whether in a city or a small town, a good life begins when we stay connected to people, to everyday life, and to the things we can still do with our own hands.